On today's show,
we discuss Kyrie's burgeoning MVP resume, LeBron's heavy minutes, and the powerhouse Eastern Conference.
Up-down on Cousins' ejection and LeVar Ball calling out Luke Walton.
And Uncle Splash, 3DZ, joins us live from LA to talk turkey.
It's Tuesday, November 21st. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to The Starters. Whether you're joining us live right now on NBA TV, catching us later on YouTube, listening to the podcast, we're very happy to have you. I'm Jay Skeets, and alongside me, as always, that's Tass Mellis.
Thank you for joining us.
To his right, the international man of mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friend.
Lily.
Lily, and last, certainly not least, over yonder, it's the bearded one, it's Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey, yo! TK, what's up, man?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at hashtag the starters. And guys, the Warriors played the Nets on Sunday, but their next game isn't until tomorrow. So they had a day off in New York yesterday. And while that meant the Tonight Show for Stephen Curry, his teammate Klay Thompson took the local news route for his TV appearance.
I usually observe if the piping and stuff is new, or if sometimes, something looks like it's been there a while, I kind of try to avoid that.
Hey, if you've ever wondered what NBA player Klay Thompson thinks about New York City scaffolding, thanks to the local news, now you know. And it brings us to today's question: what other things should local news ask Klay Thompson about? For instance, if he were here in Atlanta, they could ask him about all the potholes. Yeah, they're pretty bad. I don't like to drive my cars over them. Or if he were in my hometown of Plano, Illinois, they can ask about the time we got a Walmart. It's really big. I'm sure I'll shop there a bunch for food and clothes and whatnot. And it would definitely be worth getting his take on a grilled cheese that looks like Jesus. Yeah, I see it. I'd still eat it though. But we want to hear from you, so let us know on Twitter what other things should local news ask Klay Thompson about. Send us your best tweets to hashtag the starters. We'll hear from you later.
All right, get your tweets in. We got a fun show tonight. We're going to get into the DeMarcus Cousins ejection and whether or not that was warranted. We will hear from 3D live from LA ahead of tonight's only NBA game, Bulls and Lakers, here on the network later tonight. And Lee's got a VSP. But we're going to start with an oldie but a goodie here. It's trend or dead end. It's been a while since we've done this. Trey's going to hit us with some recent NBA developments, and we'll debate whether they will continue or not. Is it a trend or is it a dead end? TK.
The masked man, Kyrie Irving, got his clutch on again last night, going for 17 points and 4 assists during the fourth quarter and overtime, on his way to 47-6 in the Celtics' 16th straight win. Guys, it's not even Thanksgiving, but is Kyrie Irving as the MVP frontrunner a trend or a dead end?
What do you think?
I think this is a trend because MVP voters, they love their storylines. And I think Kyrie Irving's got a heck of a story.
He's got the story.
With the Boston Celtics, only 4 returning players. Gordon Hayward goes out. The clutchest player in the league here. They're sort of on pace to win 70 games right now.
You didn't want to say it, did you?
I don't want to say 70 because even
win at 70.
Even if the trend stays at 65-ish, even 60-ish,
Yeah.
I think that his storyline, it kind of jumps over a lot of the other guys because Curry and Durant cancel each other out. LeBron's got in this rut. Harden, Westbrook were there last year, even though I would pick Harden right now because I think he's doing more, leading the league in scoring and assists, still winning a ton of games at 13-4. Kyrie, the storyline, the hashtag narrative wins out a lot of the time.
That would have to overcome then the stats, because the stats on Kyrie aren't that special, to be honest with you, when you look at them. And if he was to win the MVP based on the stats he has right now, it'd probably be one of the lowest statistically rated MVPs ever. Steve Nash didn't score 20 points a game, but he averaged double digits in assists and points both times he did it. Steph Curry didn't average double digits in assists when he won his first MVP, and the second one he led the league in scoring and didn't average double digits assists either. But the storyline and the narrative here is very overwhelming too, because the Celtics were expected to have a team that would struggle a little bit at the start, incorporating these new players. They lose Gordon Hayward. And Kyrie, remember, he wanted to get away from LeBron to basically show that he could carry a team. And now he's doing that while the Cavs kind of struggle.
And look at the numbers in the clutch. When you're into the final 5 minutes of game here and it's tight, he has taken over. He's a plus 40 in 38 minutes of play, scoring 65 points.
The generic numbers aren't MVP-like, but those numbers are by far and away.
Yeah.
They've got
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook numbers from last year sort of written all over them. 0 turnovers in clutch time is ridiculous.
But Rockets fans must be going a little crazy right now, saying, how could it be Kyrie as the front runner? My guy James Harden, he's winning a ton of games, and he's leading the league in scoring, basically, and he's leading the league in assists.
Yeah, I
He's
tend to
doing both
agree.
of them. And so it's like there's no real knock on him. So, look, the MVP favorite or front runner, it changes as often as the weather. It was Giannis a couple weeks ago when we started the season. It's been Kyrie, it's been Harden. I'm sure LeBron's coming here. There'll be other guys. Maybe when the Warriors go on their inevitable run, it'll be Curry or Durant. This is always changing. It's part of the fun. But I sort of agree with you. The narrative is usually more important, oddly, than your just overall counting stats. And Kyrie's got that part right now, where everyone criticizes him for leaving LeBron. What are you doing? Why would you leave him? And here he is, 16-game winning streak and all these clutch stats. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Over-under was 55 before the season. They would have to jump to, mid-60s, at least over 60 to sort of shock people, because that's what the MVP narrative is about.
Well,
It's
if he
about
has the
shock.
best record, if the Celtics have the best record and he's
Right.
the best player on the team, then it's sort of fair, even if he is averaging 23, let's say.
They got to
and
win a
6 or
ton.
something
They
like
have
that.
to win a ton, but it's really
it'll
not
change.
fair to the Rockets.
No,
and
it'll
James
change.
Harden.
It'll change by next week. All right, Trey, next one.
All right, LeBron James played 27 minutes for the Cavs last night in their win over the Pistons. It's the fewest LeBron's played all season, but he's still leading the league in minutes played. And Tyronn Lue was still asked about LeBron's minutes after the game, saying, "If you're one of the greats, sometimes you gotta play." Is LeBron leading the league in minutes played a trend or a dead end?
It's a trend, I think. He
Yeah,
led the
I
league
think so, too.
last year in minutes.
Yeah.
The Cavs have got a lot of injuries at the moment, so he kind of has to play. And also, LeBron gets his rests during the season. He takes a game or two off here and there. So when he actually plays, I don't see why, unless it's in a situation last night where they blow out a team, why Ty Lue is going to look to rest him. He knows LeBron's a workhorse. He's barely had any significant injuries throughout his career, which is an incredible feat to him. Incredible credit to him that he takes care of his body. So LeBron knows his body better than anybody. He knows he's going to pick his spots throughout the season where he's just going to have a few games off. Other than that, when he plays, he's going to play a lot of minutes.
You know what drives me nuts? So Coach Lue, and you said a little bit of that quote there, Trey. He was talking about, well, I played with Jordan when he was 39 and he was playing 37 minutes a night, and Karl Malone was playing 38 minutes a night when he was old and 37, and Kareem and Magic Johnson. LeBron entered the NBA at 18, 3 years before most of those guys. And of course, then Jordan takes a couple of years off here and there too. I mean, LeBron has 51,000 plus career minutes when you're looking at regular season and the playoffs. They need more games like last night where he does play under 30 minutes. That's the truth to me. I mean, father time is undefeated. I know LeBron might be a cyborg, but we saw that with Kobe later in his career. He was still playing heavy minutes. And then unfortunately he tears his Achilles and is never quite the same. So they should try and get these down, I guess is what I'm getting at. So he can play heavy minutes come playoff time when it really matters.
But it's also, Ty Lue might go to LeBron and say, I want you to play less minutes. LeBron's going to play the minutes
he's
if he
going
wants to
to
play.
decide. I get that.
So, that's what Ty Lue has to balance. He doesn't want to upset LeBron, of course. And again, LeBron knows his body. He knows his body. He knows when he needs to take time off. I would trust him at this point.
We call Kawhi a robot. We call Russell Westbrook a robot. I think LeBron's robot characteristics are a little unheralded. I mean, you said it there. We don't talk about it that
No,
much.
he's most
It's just-
similar to like Karl Malone in that sense.
Yeah,
An Iron Man
yeah.
that played a lot of minutes late into his career for sure.
And he kind of gets thrown into this generation of, oh, these guys rest. They don't play hard. And, he gets sort of that label on him. Although, of course, he plays a ton and led the league in minutes. He's that sort of kind of goes unheralded.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a machine.
Trey, final one.
All right, don't look now, but the Eastern Conference is actually the Beastern Conference. Actually, do look now, because the East has won 54% of their head-to-head matchups against the West so far this season. Guys, who says we need to end conferences? Pure silliness. The Eastern Conference being stronger than the Western Conference. Do you guys think that's a trend, or is it a dead end?
I think this might be a trend.
Really?
I really do.
It's shocking to see the stat that 17 of the last 18 years, the West has had a better record
Yep.
against the Eastern Conference. So, I mean, this is early.
It's-
This could change in one night.
It's still early, but look at you're getting good play from teams like the Pistons and the Knicks and the 76ers against the West, and then you're getting all these West teams that are quite frankly struggling against Eastern Conference teams. And a lot of it has to do, I think, with injury coming into play. I mean, the Clippers haven't even won a game against the East. They're 0-6. And you got Gobert now out. He's with the Jazz. They've struggled. You've got, Conley out for the Grizzlies. We're just learning about Paul Millsap, who could be out. He's out indefinitely with after undergoing wrist surgery. He could be out 3 months. It makes sense here that we came in thinking, oh, look at all these all-stars that went to the West. They're going to kill the East once again. But a lot of injuries have come into play here, and a lot of these teams we thought in the East that might be, average are looking to be a little bit better than maybe we thought.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, because it's an interesting thing when you look at the conferences playing against each other during the season, like who really cares? But you know that the East, as you mentioned, because of that stat, they sort of want to get that, at least that credibility. Like we can beat these guys. The West isn't that much better than us. So, I mean, the Warriors are still going to be favourite, of course, even though the Celtics have been fantastic. But it's good to see a little bit more competition, a little bit more balance.
Yeah, 7
from the Eastern
teams.
Conference.
7 teams right now in the East have a winning record against the West. And last year, the West won 55% of their games against the East. A lot of that was helped by your Warriors and Spurs, who both went 25-5. And that's 50 wins right there. So I think this could be a trend. Could be a trend,
yeah.
or maybe it'll be
Tracking it.
perfect 50-50 by the end of it.
Some of those teams at the bottom of the West, like the Thunder and Clippers, you'd think would pick it up at the very least.
The
would
Thunder have been
come around.
Yeah, Thunder have been struggling, but they actually are taking care against the East.
East, yeah,
But
they
just
struggle
can't beat
against
any
the West.
Western Conference teams, which is a little weird.
These interconference games reminds me of when the AL started playing the NL. Oh, those were the days.
Start the Rounders.
Little
music.
interleague.
Got to get a designated shooter in the NBA.
All right, when we come back, did DeMarcus Cousins deserve to be ejected? We'll debate that and more in the Up-Down Report. Don't go anywhere. Into the Up-Down Report, where we figure out where we stand on some recent NBA topics. We ask you to do the same on Twitter. Hashtag the starters, thumbs up or thumbs down. First one, DeMarcus Cousins was ejected from Monday's win over OKC when he swung his elbow into the head of Russell Westbrook. Cousins secured a rebound, raised his elbows near Westbrook's face, and that's when, well, the contact was made. Pelican Center was only ejected after officials
No,
viewed replays of
I
the
agree.
incident, and he was assessed a flagrant 2 foul. So that's the boot there. Are you guys up or down on Cousins' ejection?
I agree with the Cuz.
2 up,
Shake my head.
1 down. Why do you?
I think he
agree
needed
with
to
Cousins?
protect his turf and establish his position. I don't know what else he was supposed to do when a guy is up in his pit. I mean, nothing is being called. So he just swings his arm to say, "Get off me."
But you can't
I mean,
swing your
He's
elbow.
in his pit for like a second.
Exactly, and then connect with his head.
But it's not a full swing. We
Look,
know he
look.
stops. He stops.
No, he doesn't stop.
Yes, he does.
He didn't follow through.
Look,
Hold on.
he
Did he
didn't
follow
follow
through?
Listen, his elbow whacks Westbrook in the
Okay.
head.
There's contact.
He flopped.
But even the news report said slightly swung his elbow.
Hey, if there's contact, there's contact. Get him out of here. That's the rules, unfortunately.
Yeah, listen,
So a
listen.
guy-
Westbrook's coming to try to steal the ball, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's allowed to protect himself, but he's not allowed to go like that.
Watch it,
That's
man.
So what-
sorry, bro.
So a guy is on top of
Yeah,
you.
do it.
A guy's on top of
Right.
you.
Right.
What are you
do
doing?
you see?
just gonna stand there? You're not gonna do anything?
You're holding my like that. See,
Wow.
look, I'm not swinging at
Okay.
you. I'm not swinging
You're
at
just
you.
gonna hold it up.
I'm not,
You're just
then
gonna
I'm
hold
just
it
gonna go whack, whack, whack.
Yeah,
like that.
that's what you gotta do. I think you got no choice but to whack my
No,
face.
no,
and
no,
that's
you-
if you're
listen.
gonna get in the pit of a big man, you're gonna get a blow.
Get the ball up high so the little men can't get it away from him.
You
That's
just
what-
want him when Westbrook's poking in there, just to hold it high. Just hold it high.
Yes, he doesn't need to swing.
Okay,
Look at
okay.
this. Look at this
I'm
here.
clarifying with
Take
you,
the
man.
foul.
Yeah.
Or
Come on.
DeMarcus Cousins, he stopped halfway. He didn't go all the way.
I mean, you didn't want to talk about
only
interconference play, but you're
halfway hit
really
him.
into this.
he only halfway hit him in the face. Yep, I'm entirely fine with that. And Russell Westbrook, we haven't said the word flop. He flopped.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
You
Maybe,
disagree
maybe
with
he'll
that?
get a warning.
You disagree with that?
He was
Remember
on his
flop
way
warnings?
down.
He was on his way down. I can't.
And he
I
didn't,
don't know if
and he
you're
didn't
kidding.
stand up.
Okay, next one here.
He,
We're fired
he was
up.
standing on lube and he slipped. again.
Oh, we'll get to the lube in a second. LeVar Ball
Great.
has seen enough when it comes to his son Lonzo Ball. In an interview with Bleacher Report, LeVar blasted the Lakers coaching staff, calling them soft and saying they don't know how to coach Lonzo. Are you up or down on LeVar Ball calling out the Lakers coaching staff here? Okay, Lee, you're
Wow,
upset about
Trey
this.
with an up thumb.
What are you
Let's
up on
hear
this?
it.
Hey, I'm not trying to tell dads to be quiet. I'm a dad. I want my kids to listen to me. Not to mention, Lonzo surely is already hearing from LeVar exactly what he's saying now in the media. You need to play harder. You need to play better. Does anybody disagree with that?
No,
Well, no, but I don't-
listen to you. Sure, your kid should listen to you, but he's trying to be an NBA coach. He's not an NBA coach. This ain't AAU. This isn't little kids basketball. That's
True. He's just saying, yell at my son a little bit more, which I think is fair enough. He's saying he wants
you
him to
say
play
that.
harder and better, which has been the two criticisms of Lonzo for his short career so far, is people say he's not aggressive enough and that he's not playing well.
He's
Those
also
are
saying
both
about
true.
the whole team, though. He's also saying to his team, you got to be tougher on the team. It sounds like Jimmy Butler yelling at Fred Hoiberg a little bit. Like, you just got to be harder on these guys
Yeah.
if you read that entire article.
Yeah, when you say it like that, like coach him harder, that's fine. But I think sometimes with LeVar, because he's loud and he's outspoken, it comes across more as just direct criticism of Luke Walton, which can't help this early into the season. LeVar has to take a back seat. He's not his coach, like you say. He's just the dad now of an NBA player. And it's up to the Lakers how they handle this. It's not up to him.
Would you say up until this point, LeVar has been relatively quiet in terms
quite
of
off.
about the Lakers. I mean, I know he's got opinions on a bunch of other things and other issues, and we don't have to get into those. But when it comes to the Lakers, I feel like he's been relatively quiet this season until these comments saying, just go get a W, coach my son harder, let's go here. As simple as that. Would you agree?
I think the pools were mid-November.
Is when he would start chirping?
And so he made it, I guess.
All right, final one here. You have got to see this clip. This is the lube part of the show. It's from a Japanese game show, which we think is called Slippery Stairs. The principle, pretty simple. Get 6 people, put them in slick bodysuits there, and have them try to climb a staircase covered in as much lube as humanly possible. Never-ending drama, but I want to know, are you up or down on the idea of Slippery Stairs as a potential pick-em payoff in the future?
Oh, yeah.
I guess.
Looks
No
like
one's
fun.
scared of this, eh? You don't think
Yeah,
anyone's
that's kind of the
got
best part of it, is being scared of it, trying to get to the top. You're going to think you're going to have it, and then next thing you know, one step, you're taking everybody else out on your way down.
Yeah.
Seems like fun.
Especially if you're the only one doing it, you could maybe take out
No,
the other 3 guys.
I was gonna say if we somehow have a 4-way tie for last place,
yeah.
in a
Oh,
pick-em
right.
payoff, then all 4 of us can do this. Call your
need the
colors. Call your
stairs.
colors. I want green.
How hard are those stairs? Because they're just...
Yeah, I don't
That's
think...
the worry.
Oh, he did it.
Wow!
Yeah. Oh, spoiler! Someone won.
That was you, right? You call green.
Unfortunately, we don't have the budget to do that.
No way.
No,
not a
we,
chance.
We get a pumpkin, we throw it on somebody's head, call it a day. All right, let's hear from you guys.
That was an expensive pumpkin.
When we come back, 3D joins us live from the Staples Center.
3D, can you hear us?
Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to the starters. Only one game on the schedule tonight. It's the Lakers and the Bulls from Staples Center. It's a players-only broadcast, and one of those players joins us live. It's 3D, Dennis Scott.
See those grill marks? 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 See those grill marks?
I think I can see those drill marks on that shirt you're wearing there, man.
Hey, y'all see it? Y'all see it? What's up, guys? What's up?
3D, we can't talk about the Lakers without, of course, talking about LeVar Ball. And recently, he spoke to Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report, and he kind of criticised the Lakers coaching staff for how they're treating his son, Lonzo. What do you make of him saying those comments about Lonzo Ball?
Well, I understand that LeVar has done an excellent job in marketing his kids and marketing the big baller brand. We give him credit for that. But in my opinion, it's time for him to sit down and relax and let Magic Johnson, Luke Walton, and Brian Shaw figure out how can they change the Lakers and get them playing better basketball. And obviously we know that Ball has gotten 2 triple-doubles, which is a big-time feat for a young player. But they're trying to get him to play more consistent basketball. So LeVar, sit back and chill and let the coaches do their job.
One other thing that Luke Walton has talked about with the Lakers is he actually wants them shooting less threes because they're very bad at it. They're the worst in the league. And with every team in the league right now shooting more threes, do you think this is the right move, that they maybe just reel it back a little bit until they start knocking down some threes with more consistency?
No question, guys. And here's the reason why. You don't really have any bona fide three-point shooters. Yes, the NBA is a follower. What I mean by that, yes, everyone is shooting threes, each team, big guys, centers, and so forth. But what Luke is trying to get guys to understand is attack the paint, get to the rim, make the defense shift. Now, if you kick it out for a three, that three is uncontested, wide open, and percentages come up. When you're taking one dribble, one pass, and shooting threes early in the shot clock, that's the three-point shot Lou Walton wants to cut down.
One thing that happened on Friday night's game between the Lakers and the Suns, it was a little bit of a scuffle, and Lonzo Ball walked away from it. And he got criticised for doing that by a lot of people because they felt that he wasn't there for his teammates. As a former player, though, 3D, what do you make of that? Did he make the right decision to sort of walk away from that scuffle and just leave it, or should he have sort of gotten involved and stuck up for his teammates?
He did the right thing. There was nothing to go save. It would be one thing if he was in the scuffle where you're actually being held, and now you're trying to walk away. He was a few feet away from the scuffle. He looked over to it, it saw it was nothing, and kept on walking to the bench. So in my opinion, I think it's way blown out of proportion. If I was his teammate, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Well, 3D, this is the last question, and probably the most important one because it's Thanksgiving in just a couple of days' time. You are the grill daddy, but tell us, what is your Thanksgiving specialty dish?
My Thanksgiving specialty 2 dishes are: I fry my turkey. You got to fry it and get it nice and juicy and right. And I'm, as my grandmother, rest in peace, I'm a good old-fashioned collard greens, baby. I got to have my collard greens.
Wow, we'll have to call you the Fry Daddy from now on then, 3D.
Hey, check my fry, baby. Check my fry, baby. Check my fry.
Check my hot oil.
Thanks very much for joining us, 3D. Enjoy the game tonight,
Bye,
man. We'll
guys.
see you soon.
See you soon, guys.
Okay, coming up next, it's more from me actually.
Whoa,
Yeah,
what?
it's
Lucky
great.
you.
This is a great show. My favourite one. It's my very solid play.
You're going to be lying down in this next block. You got your lean on so hard. Great clip of Klay Thompson going around talking to the local news in New York about scaffolding. So we asked you, what are some other things local news should ask Klay? You hit us up on Twitter, #TheStarters. Trey, you got a few of the best answers.
Yeah, some good ones. This one comes from Harjat, who says, what's the best toaster to buy for my loved ones this holiday season? Seems like a local news story, and Klay would definitely know. Joel says, ask him how many more versions of Klay are yet to be seen, because NYC Klay does seem like a good one. Favorite answer, though, comes from Adam. Ask Klay if he uses his rewards card when he checks out at the grocery store. He probably does. He used to be on an allowance.
Point. Great tweets. Tonight's pick and play. Bulls and Lakers. It's the only game on tonight. It's on NBA TV. It's players only. We just talked to 3D live from LA, and everybody taking the Lakers. So nothing will change, at least in terms of our records. Lee, VSP, who gets it?
This one from the Wizzy will make you dizzy. It's the Zards throwing darts. Otto Porter breaking hearts. That's what I call a very
Come on,
solid play.
Hey, we've also got a very unsolid play. This one goes to the Celtics. Starts with Kyrie Irving throwing a bomb of a pass to Jason Tatum, who makes a crazy behind-the-back save to Marcus Smart for a very weird floater. And then he makes another crazy save up top to Kyrie Irving for a swish bomb. And that's what I call a very unsolid play.
Oh boy, we had the Twitter show this morning. It was a blast. Lee and Trey got into a fight about which animal is cooler, a tiger or a giraffe.
Name me an animal that's cooler than the giraffe.
Tiger.
Literally all of them.
Tigers you couldn't hang out with, could you?
You can't hang out with a giraffe.
Yeah, but if you're
Wants to smoke
You're not gonna, you cannot have a conversation. You're here. The giraffe is way up here. You're yelling the whole time. Come
Yeah,
on.
but it's not tense. If you fall into a lion or a tiger cage, you're like, he's gonna kill me. If you fall into a giraffe, it's like, we're probably cool for a few hours.
Yeah, we might.
That's a good point.
Would you ride a giraffe?
For sure. That'd be great fun.
Riding a giraffe. That's it for us tonight. Back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. Angry Uncle Bob will be in the house.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, the no-touch rule has gotten so extreme, even in NBA talk shows, you can't touch each other.
Embrace the night, people. Biting him.